what are the steps that we actually do need to take if this really is a fear, if this is really just anxiety or anxious thoughts that I'm having that's creating this hyper intensive physiological response, so that when I do get in a relationship, I tend to be a little bit more clingy.
The problem is we don't feel seen in that fear of abandonment, and nobody has really actually helped us work through that specific fear. Because it's that fear that's the problem. It's not that we don't know how to be alone. Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
And it's Emilia.
Welcome to another episode of Evolve Ventures, where we are helping growth-minded humans evolve by breaking one limiting belief at a time. We hope you enjoyed the last episode, number 291, Motivation Monday. 3 simple conflict resolution tools that you need to know. It's a hefty title. For today, 292, Do You Fear Abandonment? Like I was saying to you in the beginning, this episode makes me want to throw up because this is something that I have struggled with my entire life. And I know that you and I have had so many conversations around this. And so I know that this is a really important topic for, all of our listeners and our clients who are going to be sending this episode to, and for any of the new people who are listening to this show. So welcome to all of you. We hope that we do this episode justice. So if you clicked on this episode, the answer is likely yes. You do fear abandonment. Hi, welcome to the club. You're not alone. What I want to make sure that we talk about today, is one of the biggest things that I hear people who fear abandonment struggling with, and you and I were kind of talking about this a little bit before we dove into the episode, which is the amount of unsolicited advice and the amount of really unhelpful advice that people who do struggle with the fear of abandonment typically get. So
Right.
like I said, this is something that I've struggled with for a really, really long time. Growing up feeling like I never mattered, growing up feeling as though I wasn't loved and I wasn't going to be wanted, that I wasn't wanted, that nobody chose me, that nobody would stick around for me, and that I wasn't worth fighting for. It really caused me to cling to anybody who gave me 1%. And that was enough for me, because it was like, as long as there's somebody there, I don't care how bad it is. As long
Right.
as there's somebody there, I don't care how little I'm getting, because a little bit is better than nothing. And we're going to be recording an episode on breadcrumbing in a couple of episodes from here. So
So glad you mentioned
if
it.
you're like, yup, that's me, stick around. We're going to do an episode on that. But from all of that, I really developed this anxious attachment and this deep seated fear of, oh my God, everyone is going to leave me. Cling on to them. And it progressed into my adulthood. And I understand it now. I can recognize it now, and I can identify when it's coming up. But anytime you hear someone talking about the fear of abandonment, not wanting to be alone, wanting to be in a relationship, everyone and their mother comes out with some convoluted message that there's something wrong with them, and they just need to learn how to be single and learn how to love yourself, and you need to learn how to be alone. And for me, and for almost everybody that I've talked to on this topic, that's not the biggest problem. The problem is we don't feel seen in that fear of abandonment, and nobody has really actually helped us work through that specific fear.
Right.
Because it's that fear that's the problem. It's not that we don't know how to be alone. Like when I'm
Yeah.
alone, I'm fine. The problem is when someone's there and it's like, oh my God, I'm terrified now. Like the idea
Right.
of dating again, it feels terrifying for people who do have this abandonment fear, whether you're an anxious or avoidantly attached person. This fear
Mhm.
is fundamental to both of those. So, if this is you and if this is something you're struggling with, number one, you are not alone in this. And there is not something wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not just some insecure person who just needs to learn how to be alone. Like, maybe some people need to learn how to be okay being alone. Like, that is true. But more often than not, you just need to learn how to work through the abandonment fears and anxieties and those limiting beliefs that are coming up that are perpetuating this
Right.
fear. So, um, what would you say from your experience are some of the biggest things that can help people when they are trying to work through that abandonment fear and that core abandonment wound?
Hey everybody, my name is Isaac and I have been a part of Evolve for a little over a year now. It's not been really great, honestly. I'm just kidding. My experience with Evolve has been nothing short of phenomenal, and the community, the Evolve Ventures Society, is just a group of people who are all like-minded and growth-oriented, and you can ask questions and get support from anyone, and it's a really private group and you can share and be open, and that's what I really love about it. Emilia and Bianca have been nothing short of uh, phenomenal, honestly. The amount they care about their team members and their mental well-being and their mental health and improving everyone's self-awareness, in terms of being growth-minded and growing to where you want to be. I could not have asked for a better place to be at right now in this point in my life. And yeah, have a great rest of your year ahead and keep evolving, everybody.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I see having the most progress for people in this arena is exactly complementary to what you said. Number one, knowing that you're not alone in this. And then number two, recognizing that change is possible. Because when we experience abandonment, usually there's an actual experience of that that then starts to create this fear. And the fear is a culmination of these thoughts. And we have control over these thoughts, and we can work with a clinician or with a coach to be able to gain more control with these thoughts and be able to redirect them to something that's more serving. So the first thing is understanding that the fear of abandonment is just that. And I don't say just that to minimize it, because I know I've experienced it too as an avoidant attachment style. And I know you and I have had so many conversations, not only with each other, and we can giggle about it at this point, but also with a lot of our community and with a lot of our clients. And so it's something that's it's not just a you or a me problem. It is something that exists so much around the world. And so knowing full well that the fear of abandonment is like a bouquet of the thoughts that we haven't worked through, kind of letting go and letting fall, that helps bring us to the second step, which is helping to understand what are the steps that we actually do need to take if this really is a fear, if this is really just anxiety or anxious thoughts that I'm having that's creating this hyper intensive physiological response, so that when I do get in a relationship, I tend to be a little bit more clingy, or I fear if my partner is talking to XYZ, then they might leave me, or I fear if my family is around me at one point, they're just going to up and leave even though I want them to stick around, right? So number one is understanding that the fear is a fear, and the fears are culmination of thoughts and thought patterns that have been conditioned over time. And knowing that, we have the power to be able to change that, which is that number two thing. And that, honestly, it feels like a warm blanket. And I know I've spoken with a lot of clients, and that has bringing me so much solace, as well as so many people who, whether if they were, let's say, for example, they had a working parent when they were younger, and it was the working parent that went out and went to work that created this abandonment feeling at a very young age, or it was a adult child who, when they were younger, their parents got divorced, right? That actual abandonment feeling came from that one origin spot. Or let's say, for example, it was in your teens, you experience a really, really hard breakup. Whatever your situation was, we experience kind of a freeze moment in our inner worlds that then we carried forward with us unknowingly, because none of this is taught in school to be able to work through this anxiety. None of this stuff is what I would say widely known and encouraged to talk about in the
Mhm.
aftermath of when you have these really anxious experiences, when you have these really fearful experiences, right? Because we're all just taught to be really happy and everything's great, everything's fine. How you doing? Great. How are you doing? Right? So to reiterate that first step, understanding the fear, you can go down the validate dissipate road, which is something that I do with a lot of clients. You validate, okay, what is true about this experience? Maybe your past, yeah, that was the case, that your dad did leave to go to work every single day, and that was really
Mhm.
hard for you when you're a child. Or maybe it is true that your parents did get divorced. And okay, now that we understand that that's true, what isn't true? And then we list out those thoughts, and how does that translate to what we no longer need to carry with us forward? We can work on the elements that need acceptance. We can work on the things that do create a ladder to bring us out of this fear. And we can recognize the patterns in our thoughts that really start to hold up a really strong limiting and negative belief. So that's what I would say are the two things. I think that it's really, really critical for all of us to understand where our fear of abandonment starts to crop up, and then be able to be the steward of our own mind, our heart, our soul, and navigate a way forward.
This fear can be crippling, and it can cause you to miss out on so many of the magnificent experiences that life has to offer if you let it. So take this as your sign
Mm.
to really start working on this and working through this. And if this is something that you need help with, and if you can finally acknowledge, you know what, yeah, I want to work on this, I want to work through this. Evolve has so many options and so many tools that you can use, one of them being one on one coaching or therapy, or the You Do You program, which is an at your pace, very slow, very like just dip your toe in type of online coaching or therapy program. We've had a lot of people do that program already, and they have said nothing but amazing things about it. They said it was exactly what they needed. They didn't expect for it to be what it was, and they're so grateful that they tried and that they signed up for it. So, if you want to be one of those people who actually gets to dip your toe in and start making changes at your own pace, that program is for you.
Mm.
M. What is your episode suggestion?
My episode suggestion is 278. Do you know what happened to you? Oftentimes we
Mm.
don't. And then we just start to have outcomes in our lives that we wish we didn't have. And so when we understand what has happened to us, especially how it connects into the sphere of abandonment, we then have the power to change it. You?
Mm. 244, understanding your anxious attachment.
Hey.
All right, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We cannot wait to hear from you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.